Streaming now, this is the Wood TV Live Desk.
And good afternoon, everyone. Phil Penarski here with the Wood TV Live Desk. Hope you're all having a great start to your Friday. It's definitely a chilly one, definitely a snowy one today, but thankfully we are joined by meteorologist Matt Kirkwood and Blake Harms, and they're here to sort of really talk about what we're seeing over and what we have seen over the past couple of days, and also talk about that incredible special that they had last night on the winter outlook for this upcoming winter. Blake, Matt, thank you guys so much for joining us today.
Our pleasure for having us.
Yeah, no, definitely. And right off the bat, I do want to congratulate you guys on that special. It was incredible to watch, very informative. And anybody that maybe missed it last night can definitely check it out right now over on woodtv.com. There's a full replay and also a web article that you can read and learn a lot more about what to expect this coming winter. But starting off, I mean, we got to talk about all of the snow, all of the weather that's happening right now. Matt, why don't you kind of talk Blake as well, kind of talk us through what we're seeing, what we're going to be seeing leading up into the weekend.
What I find fascinating about this, we decided on this date, I believe, Phil, about a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, but we had no idea the timing of the release of our winter, weather outlook would be with this current episode of major significant weather out there. This is one of the more impressive November episodes I remember. 2014 was another one.
Yes.
We set a record at 30 inches that season. I don't know if we'll get there, but I just checked the National Weather Service, and we are already over 10 inches, and we've got more to go.
A lot more to go.
A lot more to go. Okay, let's take a look at this graphic, and this is event snowfall so far. Now, key in on that so far, because we are only going to add on to that. Now that 10.1 inches in Grand Rapids, ranks number 10 for a 2-day snowfall in November. Very impressive up in Kalamazoo. And you can see something I want to highlight, Holland and Muskegon, not quite as much as areas along 131. There's a reason for that. One is they're a little bit closer to the warmer water, and with the type of west-southwest wind that developed yesterday, that actually is more favorable for inland areas, especially when that wind is around 10 to 20 miles an hour. It pushes those lake effect snow bands inland a little bit further, and we call it frictional convergence, and that convergence really piles up right around 131. So that's why we're getting more impressive snowfall totals inland as opposed to the lakeshore this go around. That was a little different than last weekend.
Yeah, and actually the Muskegon area schools were among some of the only schools in West Michigan that were open today for that exact reason. And I'm sure folks along the lakeshore aren't necessarily used to the heaviest totals jumping them, but Grand Rapids and Kalamazoo kind of has been the bullseye for this event, and that'll likely continue for us into Saturday.
Yeah, a couple folks contacted me via social media yesterday in Holland. They're asking, well, where's our snow, Matt? I said, well, okay, well, first of all, we're only, a few hours into a 72-hour event, which has now been extended. We'll get to that a little bit later. So you got to have your patience. Lake effect, I've said it many times before, it's very fickle. The bands shift, there's a lot that goes into it, so everybody's going to get their chance to shovel. Yeah. Now take a look at this. Let's go to the next graphic.
Oh, let me try that again.
Maybe you can just click on it.
Yeah,
So,
there we go. There we go.
All right. So you think ours is impressive here in Southwest Lower Michigan. So I don't know if you've heard, but it's made national news that in Buffalo area, and the lee side of Lake Erie in Ontario, they're forecasting 4 to 6 feet of snow. The latest, one of the more impressive reports I've seen is Orchard Park, New York, which is just south of Buffalo, at 3 feet already. And then you got East Jordan, Michigan. For my snowmobile buddies, I wanted to show these reports up north. 2 feet. This is a 24-hour snow total up in East Jordan, Central Lake, of 2 feet of snow. Jeez, Louisa. And then Milwaukee, just to show you the lake effect component of it. Look at Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which is just west of Muskegon by 90 miles, and they picked up not even a half an inch of snow. That is crazy.
And Phil, that's where you went to school, right?
That's where I went to school. I never thought I'd want to be back in Milwaukee so badly than I do right now. Jeez.
Yeah, wait till you see how much clouds we get here.
Yeah, right, definitely. 3 feet though in New York already. Is that just that same kind of time span that we've been talking about here?
Key. That's the key, Phil, because this is all part of the same system giving us our lake effect snow. They just have, we call it fetch. The water just has more resonant time to sit over Lake Ontario and Lake Erie, and that's why they're picking up more snow.
Wow, that is unbelievable.
forecast that.
Yeah, right.
By the way, this is impressive. Yesterday, and Blake and I talked about this, going into the 5 and 6 o'clock, we're like, I don't think, because at the 5 o'clock, it was 3.5 inches at that point,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And we're like, I don't think we're going to break the record, but still, we'll probably come pretty close. And we ended up breaking the record for the 17th of November.
Wow.
You can see 7.5 inches, a little over 7.5 inches. And for the 2-day snowfall, we are at 10.1, and that ranks number 10 for a 2-day November snowfall. And we may set the.
I was going
record.
to say, based on the snow that's expected tomorrow, we may break some sort of 3-day record or come close to it here in Grand Rapids.
They
so.
said in that NWS, National Weather Service, thinks that we could even slip into number 5. So.
Well, here is the snowfall forecast, and it looks relatively similar. I think the difference tomorrow is we're going to have more of a northwesterly component of the wind move in Saturday afternoon, but the wind is going to be very strong, and that's going to create not only visibility issues, but it's going to blow that snow inland once again. So Grand Rapids, Kalamazoo, right in that bullseye of up to a foot in a few spots of additional snowfall.
Key, additional.
Yeah.
top of what's
That's what
already
we've already
fallen.
received.
So.
Good point about, I think in the morning as that cold front approaches, we're going to see a west-southwest wind initially, then it's going to start pivoting northwest behind the front. So we're going to see shifting bands tomorrow, which just complicates the forecast. So in general, we're going with a good solid 6 to 12 inches in many of the major metropolitan cities here in our viewing area.
And the winter storm warning has been extended until 7 a.m. Sunday for essentially our entire viewing area. Winter weather advisory along the state line and along the 127 corridor over towards Lansing. An interesting tidbit, Michigan State plays at noon tomorrow against Indiana, and they might get another snow game over there.
I had to really put the kibosh, and my daughter wanted to go with her friends to the Michigan State game tomorrow. I said, nope.
Probably a good call.
Nope.
How
Sorry,
sad a
honey.
meteorologist is a dad, right?
She's 17 years old, not a lot of miles on her. I was like, no way. The car full of teenagers going, no.
No, absolutely
So
not.
I had to be a parent.
Yeah, no, I do kind of want to touch on that winter warning, though, because it has been extended. Do you guys believe that it could be further extended, maybe into Sunday night or even into the start of the week?
Good news is I think we'll finally get a break Sunday. The weather looks really quiet for Thanksgiving week, which we'll touch more on next week, but I think we're going to get a break and maybe melt some of the snow off. So.
Yeah, so we added Muskegon, or we didn't add, National Weather Service added Muskegon, Newaygo, Montcalm, Mecosta, and Oceana County to the warning. And it looks like, actually, I think the lake effect is really going to shut off quickly on Sunday. So I think the worst of it's going to be later Saturday afternoon. I mean, once we get beyond today, Saturday afternoon, in through the evening overnight, but it should really end quickly on Sunday as the air kind of dries out and modifies a little bit. So,
Right, absolutely.
actually, we should have several dry days after Sunday.
Yeah, looks
leading
quiet.
up to Thanksgiving. Really good timing.
Here's kind of a nice visual just showing the lake effect and how we're honestly pretty lucky compared to the folks in
Right.
upstate New York. They actually moved that Buffalo game to Detroit on Sunday. You know, a lot of folks are hoping,
That's right.
hoping for the snow game, but like, I don't know how you would get 4 to 6 feet of snow out of the stadium to begin with.
Yeah.
So it's probably a good call.
I wonder how much their tickets are going for.
I heard there was a rumor I heard that they're going to basically be giving them away. I mean, we'll have to see.
Giving them away.
Josh
I don't know.
Allen?
Yeah.
Although he
I
hasn't
don't
been
know.
playing the great the past couple of games.
You won't get
but
many
still.
people from Buffalo.
Yeah, right. Yeah. They're too busy shoveling.
Yeah, right.
Snowboarding.
So now I think we kind of pivot more into the winter outlook for this year, right?
I believe so.
That's
What's our
right.
next
Yeah.
graphic? Yeah. Okay, let's set the baseline. This is
Yeah.
how much we average and each month. And you can see January is the peak, makes sense. And we get about 77 inches of snow. It's funny, when I first started working for Wood TV, the average was 72 inches.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And that was back in '98 when I first started working here. And we had our snowiest decade between 2000 and 2009. A lot of people don't realize that. I always hear, "Oh, global warming, this, that, we're not seeing as much snow." That's not true at all. We actually had the most snow in a decade between 2000 and 2009. And one of the worst winters I've ever experienced was back in '78 with that blizzard. But 2013-14 actually beat it.
Yeah, that was doozy. So here's kind of some of the highlights, and this is something that Matt and I kind of talked about a little bit. One of the big takeaways, I'd say, is the colder than average December. And we're obviously seeing the early start to winter with that lake effect. And, you know, the kind of the one reason why the December headline, in my mind, is significant is because all told, we've had a relatively quiet last few Decembers here in West Michigan. I think a lot of folks have kind of gotten acclimated to really January and February being the heart of winter.
Yeah, there's no question about it. I mean, I going with a snowier and colder December for this forecast is really risky, because if you look back at the past 5 Decembers, there's only one that we've had snowier than average, and that was back in 2017. And there's been a couple, such as 2020 and 2018, we had less than 5 inches of snow. That was brutal if you're a snow lover like me.
Yeah.
So this is a huge call. I really think the way the pattern is setting up, and we're in a third cycle of La Nina, third consecutive year of La Nina, just looking at some of the data hints at, you know what, we could certainly get a cold December, and that's really unusual as of late.
Yeah, it has been. And then a few other notes here. At least one icing event, winter thaw. We're kind of used to the winter thaw, at least at some point here in West Michigan. But
much needed. Those other years where
is
we've
remarkable.
seen just incredible numbers.
What was really fascinating in 2020, it took us until Christmas Eve to receive our first inch of snow for the season.
Oh, wow.
Our first official inch of snow. It took till Christmas Eve. I've never seen that. Set a record.
yeah,
So, by the way, I'm missing 2021 there. That was 10.1 inches. So, there you go.
we've already tied that here in Grand Rapids for
Yes,
the month of
yeah,
November.
exactly. Yeah, you're right. Good point.
So here's the Climate Prediction Center outlook. Pretty typical what you'd expect to see for a La Nina, where we expect above average precipitation. Not necessarily all of that being snow. It's kind of an important distinction. But a good chance of seeing above average precipitation. And temperatures, at least according to the Climate Prediction Center, near normal in much of the Great Lakes.
Now, a little caveat here is whenever the National Weather Service usually is quite reluctant to even put any kind of below normal on that map. So I always think in my mind that it's more extensive than what you really see from the National Weather Service. So in my personal opinion, I think we're going to have a colder than average winter. And there's many reasons for that. One is we're in a moderate La Nina. Looking back at the moderate La Ninas, the past 3 out of 4, every single month, out of 3 of them had below average temperatures. Every single month. Actually, I have it right here. But there is one huge exception. That was 2011 and 12. That ended up, oh geez, what was it? Close to like 10 degrees above average
Yeah.
for winter.
Oh, wow.
So it just you never can just slam dunk it. Say it's going to be this, but I would certainly lean towards a colder than average winter, and there's reasons why coming up, and we'll show you.
And can we talk about that La Nina? I know this graphic, perfect timing. It's saying that this is the 3rd year in a row, first time in a century. Can we just kind of maybe discuss a little bit on how crazy that is and how rare it is, and just the impact it's going to have on the 3rd year in a row here in West Michigan?
That's a great question, and I think we had last time we had a triple La Nina. It was 73, 74, 75, 76, and 98 through 2001. In 2001, we had the snowiest month ever, and it was in December, and we almost had 60 inches of snow in 1 month. I remember
Lord.
distinctly 59 inches of snow
Wow.
in the month of December.
And if I'm not mistaken, a large majority of that fell in 1 week.
Yeah,
Is that-
it was it was insane. It was, I don't know if we could stop this for a second,
Yeah.
because just to give folks an idea what we're talking about in terms of La Nina, I should have saved a water temperature graph profile.
Is that it right there?
No, that's the Great Lakes. Can you scan
Oh, okay.
down it on the side here?
They should be able to right there on that bar. Maybe.
There we go.
Yep. Yeah.
But anyway, that wasn't obviously an epic. Okay, far left here.
There we go.
That's what we're on showing. When we're talking about La Nina, the first thing I always look at with a winter forecast, I don't know if Blake's the same, is how the ocean waters are distributed, the temperatures of the ocean waters, how they're distributed compared to average. We call that temperature anomalies. And you look at the ENSO region, which is the Central Pacific, right around the equatorial region. Is it warmer? If it's warmer than average, it's El Nino. If it's colder than average, it's a La Nina. And you can have varying degrees. You can have a weak, moderate, and strong ones. And you can have them distributed differently. You can have warmer temperatures in the La Nina towards the center of the ocean as opposed to region 1.2 up against South America. So there's a lot that goes into it. As you can see very distinctly, there's a La Nina going on right now. And has a 76% chance, according to the National Weather Service, or CPC, of continuing through the winter months. Now, there's something else you look at. not just the La Nina or the Central Pacific. You can look at the Northern Pacific as well, and you can see a cluster of warmer than average temperatures in the Northern Pacific, and also what we call warm AMO, which is Atlantic multi-decadal oscillation. And those two, if you look down the two bottom maps, those two correlations right there, we call them teleconnections, will lead to a colder temperature regime, or colder than average temperatures in the Great Lakes. And that's why I think that we'll likely see a colder than average winter.
Wow.
Well,
Let's go back here.
Yeah.
Where were we? And we're back to this graphic.
Yep.
So you can see all that cold. You can see what the National Weather Service forecasted what they did. That's a typical
Yeah.
La Nina pattern right there, and they're just following that. But again, I would extend that cold over the Great Lakes. We'll just have to wait and see if we're right.
Mm-hmm.
Here is, oof, look at that.
End of November into
I'm not prepared to see that December 1st yet.
I know.
Although that snowmobile season starts.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Well, we talked about Christmas. 5 years ago was our snowiest Christmas of all time, right? And these are the historical odds of seeing a white Christmas. I know it's kind of already in the minds of a lot of people. If we have to put up with the snow, I think a lot of folks want it for Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Historically, we have a 60 to 75% chance. And, well, as Matt mentioned, we did see an inch on Christmas Eve, so technically that means we had a white Christmas, right? When it's
I
on the
believe
ground.
so. I believe so.
But the snowiest Christmas we ever had was 5 years ago, 2017. I believe it was 7 or 8 inches fell on that day.
Was that a record?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, that's what you just said. Okay. Something I told you guys yesterday, I learned that the snowiest day of winter is Christmas,
Really?
on average.
Really?
The snowiest day of winter, if you look through history, is Christmas Day. I didn't know that until I read it. Well, I think someone from the National Weather Service, I can't credit who, but
Yeah.
I was like, really? That's kind of
Definitely getting
that's just
in the
for
Christmas
Santa to
spirit.
slay,
Yeah,
you know,
right,
so he doesn't get
exactly.
stuck on the roof. So it looks pretty good. I think it looks pretty good.
Yes.
At least better than a 50-50 that we'll get a white Christmas this year.
Well, and one of the primary drivers for that is kind of looking at, and one of the reasons why we've seen such a prolific snowfall event out here over the last 24 hours is the warm lake temperatures. Obviously, when you have cold air moving over a warm lake, that creates a lot of instability in the atmosphere, and that's what can really get our lake effect fired up. And you can see all the red over Lake Michigan, and really all the lakes, most of the lakes anyway, warmer than average water. So for especially the first half of winter, that's going to help the cause in terms of lake effect snow if we do get the ingredients to line up.
If we could go back real quick, that percentage just seems oddly low for Michigan, at least just from my opinion. Just seeing it that it's not even. I feel like once December hits in most of the north, you're expecting snow.
Well, you can see the
constantly,
striation.
Yeah.
I think it kind of goes back to the average monthly snowfall, and that really.
It's coming up after the next month.
Yeah, I was going to say the last, I don't know, maybe 5 years have kind of, what we talked about earlier, lean more towards January and February as kind of the heart of winter. And so I think that's what's kind of maybe even lowered our chances a little bit over the last few years.
Right.
But yeah, as Matt mentioned, you can see the striations in terms of lake effect, where we have a higher chance that places over towards Detroit because of the lake effect machine.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
But I know for my kids, they don't care if there's snow on the ground or not. As long as Santa shows up.
Right, exactly.
The most important thing, yeah.
But it's huge for the recreation industry, because the week after Christmas is when the ski resorts that is their biggest week, and when it's not when there isn't snow leading up to it, it really impacts their overall
And there have been a few in the last few years where it hasn't even really been cold enough to make snow.
Yes, that's
And
another
so-
huge thing. So they have already turned on snow guns.
Nice.
I'll be curious if anybody opens up. I bet someone will open up. I think I already read it. I don't know. Gosh, who was it? Bittersweet said they're turning on the snow guns. I think somewhere up north said they're going to try to open sometime next week around Thanksgiving. But we are going to see a little bit of a warmer period as we head towards Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Is that kind of surprising, seeing these ski lodges open up even just before December?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. That's unusual.
Right. Yeah.
For sure. They're
Well,
just they're just trying to take advantage of Mother Nature's snow and just add on to it. I tell you what, if they had all their ducks in a row, they could open up this weekend. Really,
Right.
with snow.
Yeah, no, definitely. And
Especially if they focus those guns on just a couple hills.
Yes. Yeah.
And we're only going to see more snow in this area
Yeah.
for the next
That's
couple
right.
days anyway. So.
Guaranteed.
Yes, exactly. But real quick though, I do kind of want to touch on just a couple things that we do have coming up here on the live desk. All next week, we're going to be hearing from the Storm team as we sort of discuss the weather. You know, we've talked about how it's going to be a little bit easier on the roadways next week
Much
for
easier.
Thanksgiving. So we're going to be talking about what to expect when you're traveling. We know Thanksgiving is typically one of the higher travel days of the year as people try to go and see their families for the big holiday. So we're going to have you covered Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all leading up to Turkey Day next week, and we're also going to be joined by Matt and Blake as well on a couple of those days. But do want to touch on, of course, these school closing predictions. Blake, you were very busy last night. Okay, kind of talk us through how your first day with TV went with that.
It went pretty well. You know, I think I was getting a little nervous in the afternoon when the roads were just wet, but our forecast was always that the roads were going to freeze over, and the roads were horrendous last night, and that's what caused a lot of the schools to call up the night before. We talked about how Muskegon stayed open. I figured that was a possibility with the snow being blown inland, as we discussed. But all told, you know, almost every kid in West Michigan, in the Grand Rapids area anyway, has their first day off today, including East Grand Rapids, which is notoriously difficult to close because all the kids walk to school. So.
Yeah, I think maybe Friday had something to do with it.
Yes.
3-day weekend.
Right,
Exactly right.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, again, I do really appreciate you guys stepping down to the live desk. I know you guys are going to be very busy the next couple of days, so we're going to let you go ahead and get back to it. But again, I do want to thank you guys for joining us, and I want to thank everybody for watching this latest edition of the Wood TV Live Desk. I'm Phil Penarski, and we hope you have a great rest of your day.